Hey guys, welcome back. We're going to be working on our basement renovation again today, and in the last video we sistered up all the floor joists on the other half of the house. If you didn't get a chance to watch that video, I'll leave the link down in the description as well as right here on the screen. And now before we can do that on this half, I need to fix what one of the previous owners did to the center beam that's load bearing on the house, supporting the floor as well as part of the roof above it. It appears that they notched this 2x8 beam to fit some plumbing in there, effectively lowering that 2x8 to 2x5, and directly on the other side of that beam is the spot where the other 2x8 is spliced together, and it's already starting to bow and sag a bit, and this is a huge weak point that we want to fix today. So I'm going to support each of the floor joists with 2x4s to help hold up the floor, because we're going to be disconnecting those floor joists from this main beam. So the plan is to add in 2 additional 2x8s up against this main beam here to really strengthen that up and make it what it should have been before someone damaged it. But before we can put those 2x8s up into place, we need to cut off the 3 inches like I mentioned off of each of the floor joists, pull out all the nails, take off the ledger that was on this beam, and then there's a few blocks that are in the way to patch holes the previous owner put up, but we need to get them all out of the way, everything cleaned up so the beam can go up in place nicely. Now that we have the space prepped, it's time to put the 2x8s up into place. And we're gonna start with the first one and do this one, fasten it into place before adding the second one in. And to fasten this first one, we're gonna be using 4-inch long Simpson strong tie screws. I'll leave the link in the description as well as right here on the screen if you're interested. But we're gonna fasten this with 1 screw on the top and 1 on the bottom of this 2x8 every 18 or so inches. The one end of this beam is going to be resting on an interior wall in the basement, and then the other one is resting right on the foundation. It's got about a 1/2 inch or so I'm going to add in a 2x6 wall underneath just to give it additional support once we're all finished, but that should be plenty. And for this second 2x8, we're going to be fastening this up with 6-inch long Simpson strong tie screws. Those are going to go through all 4 of those 2x8s and really make this like one solid beam and strengthen it up a lot. Now we're going to put in 1 support jack in the center of this span just to support this beam while we're finishing up the floor joist and putting in the permanent posts that are going to go in here. Now that the beam has been fixed, we're going to move on to putting up the floor joists in this section as well. And if you're interested in this and want to learn more about it, I have more information in the previous video. I'm just going to speed through this really quick. And basically we're doing this because the floor is a bit soft. As our kids are running or playing in the house, things shake and we want to stiffen up the floor a lot. These 2x8s are spanning 14 feet, which is a bit far for just 2x8s. So we're just going to strengthen this up by sistering up a new floor joist up against the old one, and that will add a lot of strength to the floor and keep it from bouncing or sagging. Now that all the floor joists have been sistered up, I'm going to move on to attaching them to the main beam with a double wide floor joist hanger for 2x8s. As I'm screwing these into place, I'm taking out those 2x4 supports that were holding up the floor, and also as needed jacking it up so that it's even with that main beam and make the floor level. Once I'm done with the floor joist hangers, I'm going to move on to adding in the bridging. This adds a lot of strength to the floor and helps the floor joists support each other and spread out the weight load on the floor. So this is going to strengthen it up a lot, and it also makes sure that those floor joists don't end up twisting and bowing over time. Now I'm going to move on to adding in some permanent supports for this beam that we just installed. And on the one side I mentioned there's the foundation it's setting on. On this side it's an interior wall that we had to cut and remove in order to get those new 2x8s up into place. So I'm going to be replacing that top plate and adding in a few more 2x6s underneath. It doesn't need 4. I want it to line up with all of them. So I'm going to put in a few blocks in the center and then one more on the end, and that's more than enough strength to support that beam. Now this wall's finished and it's reinforced basically like a 6x6 post right here. Plenty of strength, more than enough, but we're also going to add in 2 more 6x6 posts. This was the original post we cut out, and that's pretty much 10 feet from the wall, which is too far. It needs to be closer to 8 feet. So what we're going to do is install a 6x6 post 2 feet from the basement wall and 2 feet from this interior wall, which will give me about 7.5 feet in between the 2 posts in the middle. Once I'm done cutting the post to length, I'm going to take my router and with a 45-degree angle bit, I'm just going to take the corners off of these. It will make it look a little bit nicer, and those corners won't be as sharp and rough. Now all I need to do is place them where they need to go, and I have a few posts just holding up slightly up on this beam. I'm going to release that pressure and lower it back down onto the post once I have it all leveled and in place, and then it should be good to go. Then one last thing I'm going to do is add in a 2x6 wall right here up against the foundation, and this is just going to strengthen up that main beam a little bit. It's not holding on to that foundation very much, so I just want to add in this 2x6 support as well as cover up that shelving back there. I've got a little bit of a gap in between the shelves and the wall, and I want to cover that up. Alright guys, that just about finishes up the video for today. In my next video, I'm going to be installing all new lighting through the basement. We tore out all the old can lights in order to do these floor joists. I'm going to be adding in some new LED canless lights and they're going to be recessed a bit up into those floor joists so you won't see them when you're walking down through the basement, and it's going to brighten this whole space up. So stay tuned for that video next week. And don't forget to hit the like button down below if you like this video or found it helpful. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you have not already. And if you're interested in seeing more videos on this basement renovation, I've got several out already. You can go check that out at the end of this video. Click through and watch those videos as well. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.